podcast ever.
Ever? I'm
Ever.
gagged. I'm gagged. Welcome to the Survivor New York Bannerman Island exit interview podcast. It's me, Naomi. Who cares? Joining me, a very special co-host from the very special other Survivor New York podcast, the Recap Pod with Mark and Davey. It's Davey himself. Davey, how are
Howdy,
you?
y'all. I'm great. How are you, Naomi?
I'm very excited. I'm so excited that I took a nap before this because I had to just get all my energy out. Now, I can't wait. This is going to be amazing because we're talking to Brienne today. Brienne, how are you?
Good. I'm also so excited. I feel like I've been, imagining what this exit interview was going to be like for like the past 2 years. I guess it's been like almost 2 years officially now, like cuz we're kind of
Mhm.
heading into the warmer weather again. Um
Yeah.
yeah, I my life like Survivor New York 5 has completely changed my life. Like I have a family from this experience of friends in New York that I see probably too often. Like I'm hanging out with somebody from this season that I met 2 years ago at Chris's house at least once a week, if not more than once a week. Like I see these people more than I see anybody else in my life, and it's a joy. I've met like some of my favorite people ever from this experience. So no regrets, I know.
Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So yeah,
it
and this is it. This is the end of it. It's finally coming to a close, but yeah.
it is crazy. I don't neither of you were there, but at season 3, some people remember and I kind of blacked out for it, but I was crying at the end of season 3, and it was because I felt that same sentiment of like I can't believe I have all these people in my life and I can't believe that we get to connect over something, but also that I just get to meet all these new friends and meet all these people. I think being an adult in New York City is very hard, and making friends who you didn't go to college with or you don't know outside of like earlier life is very difficult. And I think it's a wonderful, wonderful thing. I'm glad you're so appreciative of it because I am too, and I know Davey you are as well.
Yeah,
So
I,
appreciative. Yeah. I could go
I
on and on. It's like I've always wanted to play Survivor. I've always auditioned for the show, and like it was this when I was out there I was like I can't believe this like exists. Like and people put so much work into this and I'm playing, and like it's so great, and like yeah, very
yeah.
grateful.
I think there's like an inherent like fun, right? Like whoever plays Survivor, whether it's like a live game or like the real thing, like you have this thirst for wanting to compete and just like play whatever kind of game. And those are the same people that share your same interests and also are down for a great fun time. So I totally agree. I can't say enough about the people that I've met my season, and I'm glad that you have a little tight knit community for yours as well.
Yes, it's amazing. And also I think this is a very, very fun season full of really fun people.
Hmm.
And I'm really grateful that everybody came out and volunteered for the experience, which I think part of getting to sit down with you, like you, Brienne, and everybody, and Chris, is that we get to express once again our sentiment for this idea that you're like, hey, come to the woods, come hang out. And obviously you had done Survivor Brooklyn South before this, but like it's a very scary leap. So I'm wondering, Brian, if you want to talk a little bit about like starting out and joining the whole program, and how it felt to even take the risk to apply to like Survivor Brooklyn South and now Survivor New York.
I knew about Survivor Brooklyn from YouTube as a fan when there was that season with Andrea Belke and
Yeah.
Sophie were on it, and like Zeke I think was on it, and I watched that on YouTube, and I was like, "What is this?" And I showed my roommates because we always watched Survivor together, and then they had some weird connection. My roommate worked with Steph Diaz, who was like doing Survivor Brooklyn South 3, and they were like, "Do you want to play?" And I was like, you mean like Survivor Brooklyn, like where like real Survivor players play? And I was like freaking out. And so I went, and I know it's like different with Survivor Brooklyn South, I don't know. But at the time I was like, oh my God, like this is crazy. I'm gonna be famous. And I also like feel like when I talk about my whole LRG journey, like Survivor New York, I wish it was my first LRG because of how I played. like, um, I still made so many. Like, I feel like Survivor Brooklyn South, I was kind of just like a little like puppy dog, like looking around like in a game, not realizing even where I was. I had like no strategy. I was just like kind of thrown around into alliances a little bit. And then the next time I was like a little bit more strategic in New York 5, but we'll talk about all the details about what went wrong, what went right from my best memories. But yeah, and then just like I'm just like addicted to this, and I feel like I get better every time I do it. So
Yeah,
It is a little addicting.
I think there was a little fame because I remember being on the prod side, like seeing all the players like roll up. Because I don't think that I knew all the players going into season 5. I was just like patiently waiting while everybody came up, and then when I saw you, I got really giddy. I was like, "Oh, this is gonna be a good game." You literally made me squeal. I was like, "Oh yes, a contender."
yeah, I was excited to see you too, but I think sometimes people like overcompensate coming into these, and they're like, I'm gonna lie about what I do for a living. I'm gonna pretend to have kids or pretend that I don't have kids and all these things. And like, I think to a certain extent, it's good to go in with a little bit of like a lie. Sometimes, if you're not used to lying, it just gets you into like that zone of like you're a different person now. You could be whoever you want to be.
Yeah.
But I definitely wanted to go in and not be targeted for like knowing anyone. I wanted people to just think like I, applied from out of nowhere. So like I think it was like Michael Schwartz was also on production, and I was just like telling everyone, I was like, don't say hi to me, like you don't know me.
Yeah.
And so I think I saw you and I was like, don't say.
I know. I was like, hi, and you were like, I said,
I think it's just like also it's just fun. It's just like
yeah.
weird, fun kind of like role play. Like you're in the game, like
Yes.
nobody knows
Yes.
who I am. Like,
Mhm.
I will say that's something I'm very conscientious of doing when I'm on production. Like there was Fire Brooklyn South All Stars this year, and I don't want to make a fuss out of seeing anybody because I want everybody to feel, it's like we're all on the same playing field. I don't know you. I don't see you because I feel like there is this weird energy when you're a new player and you don't know anybody, where the minute you see somebody hugging somebody on production, you're like, wait, people know each other? Hang on, what's going on? And it can be very
Yeah.
like
Jarring.
disorienting, a little bit isolating. Yeah, jarring is a good word for it.
Mhm.
But I'm
Yeah.
glad that your deception was on from the beginning.
it was on
Especially
from the beginning, and I didn't know obviously who the cast was going to be, so I actually didn't recognize anybody that was on the cast. So I was like, cool, nobody knows me. Nobody's going to be like, this person knows this person. But I guess Laura knew me from Stone Creek, or she knew me from being like on production in Brooklyn South 3. But it's different when you're like playing versus on. Like I didn't really like remember her, so I think that was like the only like
Overlap.
loose connection that I had to any of the players.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I don't think we were particularly worried about you as a connected person. I think there was talks of Steph Diaz was maybe potentially going to play this season, but she couldn't make it. And that would have been really the only one.
That would have been
Yeah.
instant alliance.
Yes.
I know,
Oh.
which is why we would have
Everyone
immediately put you on separate tribes. Like
Yeah,
I
Oh.
know.
it would have done some damage.
Yeah. The soft spot I have for you too. It's just right here. Right here.
The first
Yeah.
time I ever hung out with her was because of this connection through my roommate, and we were about to play Survivor Brooklyn South 3, and we were just like, okay, this is who we know. Like I think they like announced the cast like 2 days before, and we like wrote everyone's name on a whiteboard, and we're like, this person. We were like just trying to each other. It was so much fun.
Yeah, that was a crazy day when that cast list got released. I remember being like, "Oh shit, this is about to go
I
down."
took the day off from work and met Kelly Wells at a coffee shop, and we got lunch.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Drama. Well, Davey, speaking
Yes.
of that game, you were there.
Yes, I
And not only
was.
were you there, but you were on Brienne's tribe.
I
And
was.
seeing
Koror, right? Koror.
Yes.
Yes, you're
Yes.
correct. Seeing Brienne on this season, what did you know Brienne was going to deliver a little bit of?
You know, there were two really good things that I like was super pumped about. Like no matter what I knew that two things were guaranteed. One, that she had already played a game, so she was a little seasoned, right? Like when you first play a game, you're kind of like, okay, maybe I'll try this, maybe I'll try that. But I think that, correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of had an idea of how to navigate when you first got there. And the day zero was really helpful in being able to solidify some bonds, right?
Yeah.
I personally love day zero. And I think that that was already like a notch in her belt to be able to navigate through that.
Yeah.
And the second thing is, I remember when we were playing, like, there was one point where we were like, who do we vote out? And you were just really able to rationalize like thoughts and, maybe we should put a vote on Kelly. Maybe we should vote out Kim. Like, we were just always bouncing off ideas and it was never forceful. It was kind of like, these are our options. What do you think? And I think that that was going to lend itself to make you a really great alliance member. So I was just so pumped wherever the cards fell because I knew that you would be able to navigate it.
Yeah, I remember making it a point to learn, like, memorize everybody's name on night zero. And usually I'm not super good with like spot memorization, but I was just like on high alert. And I remember I was able to memorize like everybody's name that night. I do think like in next seasons, if there are night zeros, like they should be like fully filmed, like as much as possible, like all of those interactions, because they definitely come into play. And I think my night zero alliances, like, and relationships that I built, especially probably with Sharif and Ed, like we kind of like had our eyes on each other at night zero, and that was not like shown as much in the first episode. So I do think, even though I play my idol that I find, I was a lot safer than I think people realize. Possibly, I definitely was still nervous just because we had never voted, and Sharif is such a good liar that it's like like you believe him, but you also know he's such a good liar. So I was like not sure still about what was going on because it was three guys, three girls, and they had good there was talk, so I wasn't sure like how close talk was. So I was still very nervous, but I also think that I was much more like more socially like insulated than maybe like it seems because of like the relationship that I had with the two of them.
Yeah.
It was just a big mess. I wasn't the only person making mistakes. I know I was definitely all over the place and messy, but Ed told me to play the idol, and he was in my alliance. So I'm like, we could have had the idol after all of that.
Literally.
Love it.
No, I think I tried to record as much of day zero as possible, and Naomi's like pulling me by my shirt, like, come back inside, we need to talk. And I'm like, oh, okay, it's so juicy out here, and like nobody wanted to sleep either. And I think that y'all were up for a really, really long time. I don't remember.
That's one of those things I want to talk to Veronica in particular. So I have like a flashback vision in my head, and I can see like Veronica sitting in the chairs and maybe Sharif, but I don't remember anybody else who was sitting. But I just remember how late everybody was up. You're very right, Brienne. Although I wonder if we knew that you and Sharif and Edsel were clicking so much, would we have switched you guys around? You know what I mean? Like, is it almost to your advantage that we had no clue how tight the bond was getting? But I think this kind of this brings me to the first challenge, because I think this challenge is hilarious. You guys, I think you got to cross the bridge like first, right? It was the little crossover challenge, and
the
then
balance beam thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. The reward.
And then no one else got across, and so you guys lost. Like, it was really funny. I thought you guys were going to be this dominating tribe, and then immediately it was like, oh no, they only got Brienne across, and they couldn't do anything else.
We did it wrong. There's only one right way to do that challenge, and the only team that did it the right way won. You're just it's just what is it? A strategic brain game. It's almost more like a brain game than whatever trivia the other game was going to be, than it was a prom thing, because it's really just kind of a trick. It's a trick.
My question for you is how did you feel about the other two tribes that night? Like, in retrospect and in general, seeing the group of Polypel and the group of Iona, how did you kind of feel like comparatively with your group of people, and also just in general? And also, speaking of, If you have anything bad to say about Stan right now, now's the time to do it. Hi, Stan.
Hi, Stan. Nothing bad to say about Stan. Okay, sorry. So how did I feel? I think before like the whole idol crazy shenanigans, the way I felt about my tribe was I really liked my tribe. I still really like my tribe. Like stay blue, stay true, Esopus all the way. But
Okay.
like actually, like I think we had the best tribe for sure. Like, love my tribe. My other things, I definitely like talked to the people that stood out to me at night zero were probably like Danny, Kristen, um, maybe Ari. I definitely talked to Andrew, Annie. Wow, I'm like remembering. It's crazy because it's all coming back to me.
Okay, Celine Dion.
I I wrote in. I wrote. It's all good. I rode in a car with Veronica and Jeremy and
Yes.
Robin, and
What a car.
it was a great car.
I like that car.
And I definitely thought I would be able to work with Veronica and Jeremy. So I saw they were on the same tribe. So I kind of like made a note about that. Like maybe that could be a thing. Like I could probably like find my way in there. But other than that, then I didn't really have too much time. And then Kayla sent me out to find the idol at Blue, and then everything kind of.
Yeah. Suddenly it was morning, and I had no idea what to do anymore.
Well, I like my initial thoughts were like, okay, they're tribes of 6. We're gonna need a majority 4, and then like I'm not super good at math. I try to just like focus on like my relationships and make sure that I am at least in like the majority alliance, and then like beyond that, it's sometimes very hard for me to like calculate like the nuances of like splitting votes and like who's doing what and like it's really hard.
Oh
like
yeah.
I'm so impressed with people like who could just do it so fast. Like for me, I really need to like sit down because I'm very visual, so I have to like sit down and I'm like, okay, these rocks represent all the people, and like these people are gonna vote for it. Like I have to like visualize. Like it takes me a while, so I was just like, okay, I need to be in an alliance with 4 people, and then I know I'm good. And luckily, I think telling, our camp was the smallest camp, and there was like one tree, there was one thing where like anything would be hidden. Like there was no finding this idol without them like figuring out that I had it. So I had to tell people, and it ended up really bonding my alliance. So it was kind of like a good thing in the end. But it split up Esopus like right down the middle. And then,
Well, so from my observation of that first round, right? Because like I was there, I was watching it all go down. I remember very distinctly being like, wow, I can't believe that Sharif and Edsel are fine with working with Brienne after this whole idol debacle. And in my head, I was like, this is like crazy. I can't believe they were very chill about it. And of course now, and knowing your alliance, it makes complete sense. But I remember like from production holding the camera being like, what the hell is going on? Like this is bananas. But it really was a testament to how close you 3 were. But also, I think there's a lot of interesting elements to how Tak, Laura, and Kayla all played this moment. And I wonder if you can talk about that a little bit more, Brienne, because I think they were each trying a different way to weaponize the information. Laura was trying to come to you to get you to talk about it, to maybe work with you. Whereas I feel like Tak and Kayla were very much like, well, she has the idol, so let's vote her out. She's been lying to us. How did you feel? And also watching it back, seeing the first episode.
I, had been very worried about how it's gonna look. So yeah, I mean, I think it was that Sharif, it's all like comes down to like Sharif to me because he is like a magnet socially to anybody. So like I think what was really like important there in terms of us not only being a strong 3 was that Kayla and Talk were both really like convinced that Sharif was also working with them.
Yeah.
So like it got in the way of the three of them forming like a core three together and like voting together. Whereas it just like shuffled up the votes so that like basically they were gonna vote with Sharif. Sharif was not gonna vote for me. It's all coming down to Sharif. Okay. Wait, is that the private chat? Sorry, I'm confused.
Yeah, that is right.
He's just making his own
okay.
comments
Sorry.
Yes.
because now Davey can't comment on the live.
Sorry, I
so he
didn't
has to be
like.
here.
Sorry.
No, that was
Sorry.
I was like, wait, I just said that. Is that okay? Sorry. Yeah, so I think like there were just things and all the chaos and also like his ability to calm everybody down and like just kind of direct what was happening with them. It got in the way of them kind of forming a strong three. So that's also why they're like, and we were such a strong three. So it was like, it wasn't like a 3-3 split. It was just like we had the strong three and the three of them were not able to work together as tightly as we were. And we had the idol for a second.
It felt like moves. Go ahead, Davey.
So when you first found the idol, like, did you feel like, was it easy to find? Like, I didn't really see the footage of you being able to find it, but I feel like as a designer / artiste, like you were able to just like look and find it.
I have found a few idols now in my resume. And this was the easiest one I've ever found. It was literally the tiniest little
read us.
Tiniest little camp, and literally it wasn't like a poem or a riddle like the other camps. I don't even know what their clues were, but mine was like, it's right like underneath the one tree that's right in front of you, and there's 2 dots on the tree, and like it's underneath the dots, and like I just look and there's like 2 like little holes in the tree, and I'm like, oh, it's like literally, it wasn't even like under a rock or anything, it was just like right there. So then I also knew like this isn't a clue, like an ambiguous clue or anything. I can't show them this clue, like it's such a specifically like there's no other spots where there's a tree and like 2 holes. Yeah. So I had to hide the clue, and then I'm like, should I come up with like thing? And then they were just like there, and I was like, great. And like the thing is, for me, when I watch Survivor the show and contestants are given like the advantage for the tribe versus idol decision, I'm always like, go for the idol, like this is what you came here for, like it's pre-merge, like if this is going to ruin your game, like you were probably done for anyway, like find the advantage. I'm just like, I'm like shaking the whole time, but I'm like, this is like I want to play Survivor. I want to find idols. I want to do this. Like this is just like who I am as a player. I can't help it. I'm like, And then I think my lie was like the right lie. I just didn't sell it, and there was no like, I was changing my pants. Like I didn't even think to put it in my bra like an idiot. Like,
they got so on you though about changing your pants, and I was like, leave her alone. It got hot out. Like, what do you mean?
Yeah, like come on.
They're like, what a faux pas. Why did she change her pants? The idol's not there.
I wore those pants in case I found an idol, because they have like pretty big pockets in them. But still, I put the idol in my pocket, and there was just this huge, like bulge in my pants. Like even with those pockets, there was no. So I had to I was thinking, I was like tripping up my words, and they were like, well, and there were other things that I could have been like, oh, the note said it was like by this rock. But no, I was like, the note said it was by a tree, and there's just like one tree. Like, and everyone's like, well, where is it? This is so stupid. Like, it's so funny. And I was like laughing and shaking. I was like, I'm going home. I really was like, but it was fun. It
was exhilarating.
I have never seen, and I say this with a lot of love, I've never seen a car crash like that in my life in a live game. It was incredible. And it wasn't just because you were nervous, rightfully so. It's because they showed up at like the worst time. Like you had just sort of gotten comfortable, but you hadn't had enough time to think about what you were going to say. And they just showed up.
Yeah,
It was
they
kind of
just showed
incredible,
up.
though.
They started asking questions, and I knew obviously they're gonna know like I had an opportunity to look for something, so I said that, but I didn't find it.
They had so many
That
questions.
was,
They grilled you.
the classic, I looked for it but didn't find it. Why? And then
Yeah.
I figured like, and even after I told Sharif and Ed, people were still like not sure whether or not I had it, but like I obviously had it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I love Laura and Kayla to death, but they're both so intense. And like Laura, I I love her. Like, um, but when she was like, after I watched her exit interview, I realized she was trying to sort of like extend an olive branch, or like a opportunity for me to like come clean to her when she was like, "Is this the string you left on the
Right.
ground?" But at the time, I read that from her as being very like accusatory and
Mm-hmm.
like fess up, like tell everyone you have the idol,
The
I
jig
don't
is
know.
up,
The
Brienne.
jig is up, instead of it being like, hey, let's be friends. Like the way it was like, the approach felt more accusatory to me at the moment, probably because I was anxious, but also I think she was anxious, and we weren't comforting each other because we were both so on edge. So it was hard to like, when you're building an alliance or like trying to make a bond with somebody, if you're both like scared of each other, you're not going to make that bond. So,
Yeah, it doesn't work when you're under duress. It like
yeah,
becomes a little bit difficult.
yeah, which is like
Yeah.
unfortunately how it ended up playing out between her and I, and also Kayla and I, because by the time it was like time to save Kayla, it was like we had already been on opposite sides of the coin, and I was like, yeah, I mean, if you're my only option to work with, I'll work with you. But
Yeah.
it was just kind of a little too late by the time it like
Yeah.
switched. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think it also, first of all, that opens a whole can of worms of like the way that you perceive being spoken to in Survivor sometimes, where like it's the beauty of communication, right? Is like if you're sort of vague, people might misinterpret things. But also this vote, I think I want to talk about the pros and cons of playing the idol. Because imagine if you had gone into that swap with an idol. I feel like it would have actually been really terrible for you, Brienne. I don't know if you've thought about this at all. But these bitches were cutthroat. I don't know if you like they would have just let you
Oh
have an
my
idol,
god.
you know?
Well, it would have been, I think, good for me because I went into the swap with no blues.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So my swap tribe would have, if I, that would have actually been a secret idol
Mm-hmm.
if I had it at
Oh.
that point until merge. And I was kind of in trouble had we had lost like 2 rounds, I think. I think I
Yeah.
would have maybe squeezed by one if we lost one, but then I would have really been in trouble. So I think
Yeah.
you're right. Like, I think if I had swapped and been on a tribe where people knew I had an idol, that would have been a sticky situation. But also, but the way it played out, it would have been nice. It would have been cool.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody ask you while you were on the swap tribe, like, hey, did you find the idol? Like, based on the fact that obviously I think it was like obviously an idol clue and or a challenge advantage. Did anybody ask you what your results were based on the fact that you got sent?
I think I remember. I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure I remember just telling everybody that I played it and that it was gone.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
Easy.
there's a
Goodbye.
lot. Yeah,
Okay.
Easy. Done.
there's a lot of things that my memory is pretty blurry,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of times it's easy for people to like, when you don't remember that well, to like, maybe make yourself look a little better or say like, oh, I remember what I was thinking at that moment. I could have done this, this, and this, but I don't know. So I also try to like avoid
Too much
I don't know, like
hypothesizing. Yeah.
Yeah.
pretending I remember something. I'm not sure like what I said. I don't even know if I said anything about it. But I think if
Mm-hmm.
I did, I'm pretty sure someone must have asked me about it, and I was like, I don't have it. It was
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
late. It was dumb. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I think your starts with this game was really rocky. I mean, I don't know what's worse, like having like kind of being forced to play an idol on your first go because you're just so unsure about all the variables, or going to the next tribal and not having an idol and then worrying about who has the immunity now. I feel like you had a really rough start. How do you
Yeah.
think how do you think it compares after like the next couple of rounds where things are, I guess, a little easy peasy?
It ended up being like pretty great because I think I was able to sail through after the swap because my team won challenges until the merge, which was like huge. I don't know how long I would have survived um, had that not been the case. But luckily, like I did have that really rocky, weird experience that I somehow found my way out of in the beginning. So it's not like I didn't have like that story behind me already. So like compared to like Stan never goes to tribal until merge, at least if I like the whole time I'm like, okay, if I get up there to final three, yeah, there's this chunk of time, but like the game goes by so fast, maybe people won't like I'll have something to say, like I have a story that I can play up. I was almost the first person voted out of this game, and so, but I think, in order to get to the end, you have to have a certain amount of luck as well. So those rounds were definitely very lucky for me, I think. Yeah.
How did you feel on the reverse side of things with your two biggest alliance mates being essentially in an incredibly vulnerable position, considering that like it was pretty tenuous that they would survive at all in those rounds?
I was so worried when they lost because I was like, that's it. It's going to be Sharif. He's going. And then they come back. Kayla's gone. And I was like, interesting. I was like pretty shocked actually. Not what I expected at all. And then they lose again. And I'm like, all right, it's Sharif. Like there's
RIP Sharif this time.
anybody else. Like they're picking off the Blues. Like why? And then it's Ed. And I'm like, what is going on? Like, I was like literally like shocked every time. And they're picking off all my old tribe members just one by one, but in the complete opposite order than I would imagine them to. So funny. It was definitely like I was worried. I knew it was going to be them, but I was also like very shocked by what was going on as well.
Yeah. And
also relieved because I think Sharif was my number one. So going back into the merge with him being the person that stayed was awesome.
Yeah. The Sharif and Brienne missed.
Wow. Is it Misty in here? Is it fine?
Misty. It was honestly like a very iconic duo. Like looking at it comparatively into this like bloodbath that is about to be the merge. Like to have these two people that like explicitly trust each other and know how each other work and have survived. I feel like you can't ask for anything else.
It was really difficult also because I think Stan as well, like they're both people that everybody thinks is their number one.
Yeah.
And I like have my own life trust issues like to begin with, and being in a number one alliance with a person that everyone clearly thinks is their number one is really hard to like trust yourself and like tell yourself, but no, but my alliance is the one where he's my number one. You just like see him, being out there being number ones with everybody else, to have that like extra like to trust in it on top of all of that was really hard. And I also the whole time was like almost like never allowing myself to fully like do that because I knew I think once we merge, in my head I'm thinking my strategy is get to final four with Sharif and then cut him at 4 and then I'm in 3 because he at that point I was like that was kind of like where like my head kind of got tunnel vision, and then it obviously didn't work out that way. But
well, he also had like such a crazy story that it's not even that absurd to say, yeah, let's bring him all the way to the end. I trust him implicitly. He's with me. We have Edsel in the jury, and then I'll just vote him out. Like it makes a lot of sense, especially considering how wild his story was of like he just survived all that shit. Like you survived all the earlier shit, and then he survived all the later shit.
Yeah.
And then somehow you guys were together. It was kind of bananas.
Yeah, and then we kind of ran the show together. I tried to like we bounced ideas off of each other, but my ideas were bouncier and his were the ones that stuck every time.
Bounce here. Oh no.
I love that.
Which is fine, but I think he did like listen to a lot of what I had to say, but he was not stupid. So I had a harder sell with my ideas because my ideas were never good for his game, and I was just trying to be persuasive in a way where like maybe he'll buy this.
Yeah.
But there was no in the end I was right, because in the end I was saying like Stan is gonna flip on us, like we need to get out Stan, he's gonna win, he's a threat. And Sharif just like Stan was also like Sharif's number one, and I was like, this is a mistake, and I was right in the end. So that was actually good for Sharif's game, and he didn't listen to me, but that's fine.
Well, I think there's a lot that I found out watching the episodes and seeing everything go down that I didn't know in the season. And I think one of those things is particularly that Sharif was not only intended on keeping you safe, but also keeping people like Veronica and Annie and Julia, the people who had just protected him for 3 rounds, safe as well, which I don't know was great for your game, but I'm very curious at this merge moment, because you come in from a tribe that has completely won everything, and you reach a merge where everyone goes, all right, we're all gonna gang up on Jeremy, and it's like it's so fast. But I remember that once Jeremy's name was like a snowball, and once it started gaining traction, it was an avalanche. And for you, Brienne, you had just been in a tribe with him, and I think that Kristen had a good relationship with Jeremy. How is your relationship with Jeremy? Someone you had connected with early on, but now we're no longer on the same side of.
Yeah, it was hard. Like I feel like our relationship was good. Like Jeremy and I are great friends now. We're like very good friends. We'd have art days. But I think at the time it was, the lines were just clearly like it. I was gonna go with kind of what the people that I was working with were gonna do, and I didn't want to stir this pot, especially like in the early merge. So I definitely just kind of like hopped on the wagon. Unfortunately for Jeremy, it wasn't like any hard feelings or anything. It was just kind of like the way it was going, from like what I recall. And I had basically realized I was in this position where Sharif and I had been the swing votes, like in the merge in a lot of situations. And I had good relationships with like everyone. Like Jeremy was still talking to me very openly and honestly. I think for the most part, everybody was being really honest with me. I don't know how many people like straight up like lied to my face in the game. I think everyone was always kind of comfortable talking strategy with me or like pitching ideas to me. And I was in a lot of conversations just listening, just like nodding my head. Like that's just like like a whole compilation of me just like people talking at me. Like everybody was just talking at like to me, like, and I wasn't saying anything for like a long time in this game. And
there were a lot of moments watching the episodes where I would see like there's a group conversation and they're clearly talking to somebody off to the side, but I don't know who it is, and then it'll pan and it'll be you. Like, and I felt like
I was getting a lot of information very fast, and I think I'm a pretty good listener, but I think I look like a better listener than I am. Because I was
so you make it, baby.
I was being showered with information, so I was juggling a lot of what was being thrown at me so fast, so much. So like somebody would just like say something to me, like Veronica, and then like I was talking to Kristen, and I'm still like processing what Veronica said. So I think, I could have been better with like using all the information I was getting. But I knew like I wanted to, every Survivor player is like, it's all about timing. When are you going to make your big move? And watching it back, I definitely think there was, I kind of waited too long. But, hindsight's 2020.
2020. Who, I guess, like, name, aside from Sharif, name like 3 players that like constantly gave you a lot of information. Like,
name a woman.
Really
name a woman.
Name a woman.
Veronica, for sure, and Kristen. I mean, this is like my regret. I think Veronica and Kristen like kind of butted heads a little bit, I think. Like I think we should have just worked together. Like this is my regret. I think at Veronica's vote is probably the time I should have made a bigger move. Um because like she was a number and she was so willing, but it was just like I didn't know where Kristen's head was at, and you know she was like tied to Danny, and then I was tied to Sharif, and then like Annie was tied to Stan. So like that whole big boy thing, like it wasn't even like the big boys alliance that was the biggest threat. It was the fact that like the big boys each like had like a girl tied to them, and like it stopped the girls from working together, and like it made it
Yes.
really hard. But I think like, you know, watching it back, I get really frustrated because that's the time where I realized like we could have taken the majority as women and then it wouldn't have mattered. Like, you know, we could still could have kept like I could have even still kept Sharif, but then he just would have had more allegiance to me and my ideas instead of like the other way around. So like
Yeah.
it's frustrating to watch that. But at the time it was just really hard because the girls didn't know like how willing each of us were like in the back of our heads to work with each other, but we just didn't have like I just didn't have those conversations like enough, I guess.
Yeah. I mean, well, I agree. I think there was a little hesitation because we all knew where Veronica was, and then everyone else was kind of like, I want to, but
Veronica was like, I'm voting out Danny. I'm voting out Danny. And
I'll vote out whoever.
Okay. Veronica was correct, like in her pitches to me. I think she had been pitching like the girls thing plus Sharif to me, which was like the harder part. Like she probably just should have pitched girls to me, but I think she like had to throw Sharif in there, otherwise I wasn't gonna like budge. But also like she was right for a really long time. I just think the right time for me to like jump onto that idea was at Final 7 after we voted out like Robin and Julia and some of the other people because like it just like timing wise I think I would have been more like solidified with the people left in the game, whereas if I had like jumped on the girls wagon earlier I probably would have been cut earlier, you know. Like I probably would have been like maybe at the bottom of all of that, having not been in alliance with any of them beforehand. But you know, maybe at my next LRG I'll make different decisions.
Well, I want to circle back on this conversation to the Andy elimination because I think that Andy getting voted out is one of those moves where everyone is kind of looking at each other like, oh my God, are we going to work together? Is this going to like, could we like work? Is this maybe something we could do? And it doesn't pan out. I think specifically because of what you just mentioned of Danny, Stan, and Sharif each have somebody who they are essentially keeping apart from the rest of the group. And in fact, Stan, I think, was keeping not only Annie, but keeping Julia apart from the group as well. How did the Andy vote feel to you? Because that was also a big Sharif move, I think. But it really hinges on, I think, this big group of people getting together to make it happen.
Yeah. Oh God, it's like so hard for me to even remember these details. I remember. I'm trying to remember who was the other person that it was gonna be. Like who also got
Julia, I believe.
Yeah,
like Julia and Veronica's names were getting thrown out a lot at that point in time.
Oh, so you're saying like this was a moment where like we got out a guy. Yeah, because then I guess Andy at that point was the only guy that didn't have like a solid duo, except people were pretty people had their eyes on like him and Danny as a duo. And I think I remember the strategy behind it also being about like splitting them up. And I think did Kristen vote for Andy?
Kristen did not.
I think all the Greens were kind of like confused.
They were grouped, yeah.
Yeah, they were grouped, they were gagged.
Yeah.
This is a 6-3-1 vote because Robin throws their vote onto Veronica. Kristen, Danny, and Andy all vote for Julia, and then the rest of you guys voted for Andy.
Yeah. Yeah, that was a crazy tribal.
Mhm.
I loved it. I was watching that go. I mean, I love Andy, God bless him, but I was watching it go down. Like, yes, begin.
Danny, Andy, and Robin's original green. I think we wanted to split up Danny and Andy and take out a green.
Yeah.
And then Danny and Kristen were already close, so they were going to vote together. And then I think it was a way to basically and Danny had been like bonding with Stan and Sharif, I think, already at that point.
Yeah.
So I think it was kind of like that was actually a pivotal moment. It's almost like the Greens that were left were like kind of flipping on their original tribe and like to take out one of their own to like move forward in the game.
Yeah. Sometimes you gotta force the hand.
Yeah, poor Andy.
Yeah, poor Andy.
Well, Brienne, another question I had is your alliance with Danny at this point, because you swapped onto a tribe with him, and I think that you sort of became like working with Danny by association. But
Yeah.
I'm very interested in your relationship with each of the three who are in the final four with you. And I think this is a good time to talk about Danny, because I feel like he was always sort of vaguely working with you, but then there's like idol get in and all these things where it's just like, does Danny have an idol or not? Who knows? He just like clearly
Oh,
showed
yeah.
Let's talk about it all.
Yeah, that was okay. So during this period of the game, when I start, I think I completely like actually lost my mind because I saw, and I'm so happy that somebody caught this on video, because if this wasn't on video, I would have today think that I like made this up in my brain. But like he pretended at the park to find an idol and put it in his pocket, and he like made eye contact with me and like kind of smirked when he did it. And I was like, oh, and then at the time I was like, oh, okay, like Danny just found an idol, like he's probably gonna like pull me aside later and talk to me about it, because he even saw me see him. And then like that never happened, and then it just like caused all this like craziness in my brain. Then I find the merge idol,
Yeah.
that I thought he had found. And then after that, I swear that I passed by like one of his confessionals and heard him. I thought I heard other people talking about the fact that they saw me find it. And I thought everybody knew that I had it. Probably like also PTSD from like the beginning of the game. I was like, secret idols aren't real. Nobody ever has an idol for real in secret. Everybody knows. So then I tell Sharif because like whatever, it was just like, so I'm like, everyone knows I have it already. If I don't come clean, it's just gonna be sketchy. Sorry, well, your question was about my relationship with Danny.
Yeah. Well, that's where it
Yeah,
starts. That's where it starts. Also, hi Edsel. Hello.
Ed Isobas, let's go.
Well, we love you unpacking Idolmania.
Yeah, Idolmania.
Idolmania. Yeah. Oh God, it was like Idolmania. Like, and then I thought everyone knew I had it because I was talking about it with Sharif, and at the time he was the only person I had told. And then I like turn around and Annie is just like right there, and I'm like, ah! Now everyone knows. But apparently nobody knew. I could have kept it a secret. It's very frustrating. Like I genuinely was just like actually paranoid. Like but yeah, so with the whole Danny and like by association thing, I actually think I had more of an alliance with and a relationship with Danny than Stan. Stan was more of like my alliance by association.
Yeah.
Like throughout the entire game. Like I just remember when I spoke to him, he's also really tall, but like physically it's kind of hard for him to like look me in the eyes. But I just remember being like, he doesn't look me in the eyes when he talks to me. Like we're in an alliance by association. Like it's very clear to me when I was talking to Stan. But with Danny, he made me feel a little bit more like seen when I was talking to him, I think. And like just kind of like yes anded my ideas, even though like it never really went anywhere. He just kind of like, I don't know, made me feel a little bit more like we had a bond than Stan did, but
yeah,
it wasn't And then also, like, it was stupid of me in the final four because the previous votes that I had cast before the final four were for Kristen, I think.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I either had voted for her. I had voted for her once before that. And then I voted for her final four. And so I had this like weird idea that like she was my best option to pitch to Danny and Stan to take out at 4. Because also I thought she was like playing an amazing game. And she was like not that's a wrong idea. Like I was like, Kristen is a big threat. And I was trying to pitch that. But in hindsight, I think I might have had I had no case. Like it was going to be me. But I think maybe I could have convinced Stan to like actually take 2 girls to the end.
Yeah.
I maybe would have had an easier time doing that because and this is just like something that I was like slowly getting to, which was like my big thing where I was like, let me just say something, but I don't even say it. I was like,
I know.
I basically like, and I don't say it well and like at all, but I was thinking about, it was like the moment it started coming to me where I'm like, it would have been a better pitch for Stan to maybe see if he could take me and Kristen, because then Kristen and I are getting similar votes from the jury. Like,
yes,
it will be like split between me and Kristen, and then Stan takes the rest. Whereas like Stan and Danny are kind of getting, maybe some of like more of the big boy like votes. So I think in the end, final four, like I picked the wrong like potential pitch to get out Kristen to Stan. Whereas like maybe I would have had a little bit more of like a persuasive way of getting him to take out Danny and then take me and Kristen to the end. So I thought about that a little bit, but that's not what happened. So, but
yeah, I mean, you survived a hurricane and you were just like pitching to the wind. You were like,
because I already had voted for Kristen.
Yeah.
Twice, I think.
Yeah.
So I was just like wanting to vote for her because I was like, why is she? She's like a cockroach. You can't vote her out.
Yeah.
Well, that's also, I think, the voting for Kristen, and I was talking about it a little bit with Annie and talking about it a little bit with Kristen, is 7 is the moment to really combine as like a group of women and say like, yeah, let's try and work together and defeat these men who are all holding us back in some way. But also, after that's gone and once that trust is eroded, I think it can't be built at the final 5. It really can't. And it can't be built at final 4, certainly. And there's maybe a world where if Stan doesn't have immunity, although we kind of talked to Kristen about it, I think Kristen also saw you as a very big threat, that Stan is someone for you to pitch maybe at final 4 if he's not immune. But I think the reality of it was like once 7 passed by, it was like impossible to make those connections. And
that was definitely the moment where I should have made a big move and didn't, because at that point I was relying on like something like more like luck and chance for me to like get by in the game, because I mean, I had the merge idol. I forget when I find it. I think maybe I find it after Veronica leaves. But yeah, I mean,
I think it's like
no, I had it because I remember thinking I should have played my idol for Veronica and just not told anybody that I was gonna do it. Like that would have been so epic. But it's one of those things where like you watch it as a viewer and you're like, these people are so stupid. Like, why aren't the girls working together? Like, come on. Like, but when you're in it, it's just like you don't know everything, and like it's much harder to know like or see those moves when you're in it, I think.
Well, there's a great moment. I kind of cut it out because it was hard to hear, but there's a really funny moment in OTEV where you and Veronica are trying to find that piece in the first round, and you just start talking strategy to each other while you're looking for the piece. And it's so funny because you're basically both. Veronica's like, "It's me. I'm dead. It's me," and you're like, I don't know. But Veronica's like, I'm so screwed. And I would have loved to see something like that happen. That would have been really great.
Yeah.
I wish. I forget who wins that challenge.
Stan.
Yeah.
Stanley.
Stan.
We should have voted out Danny.
Ooh.
Yeah. It's interesting. I think for all
because
the
I
reasons
didn't
we
realize
talked about earlier.
I didn't realize how not tight Kristen and Danny were. Like,
yeah.
if I had known, like, and Kristen would have been like, "Yeah, I'll vote for Danny with Veronica," I would have been like, "Hell yeah!"
Hell yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
it's not Sharif. Like, you know, I still have Sharif as a vote.
Yeah.
Now we have the majority girls. We get to save Veronica. I loved Veronica. I wanted to do everything Veronica told me to do the entire game. I was just like, felt a little bit like it wasn't right. But if that had happened, if we had the right conversations, if it was just like in the air, like that would have been amazing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think because people weren't privy to the not fallout, but the backlash that Danny received from Kristen after he told everybody about her idol. I think if it was more like public knowledge that she felt a type of way, I think you definitely could have pulled her over.
Yeah. Because it would have become like, okay, well then which guy do we take out? And I think that was the problem with us working together because nobody wanted to like pitch to each other's men. But, you know, and nobody was gonna like, you know, say like, oh, I'm cool. Like Annie wasn't gonna say like, oh, I'm cool with like us working together and taking out Stan. I wasn't cool. But if Kristen had been like, let's take out Danny, I would have been like, yeah. Which I think like out of all of us, she would have been the one most likely to want to like get rid of her bond with Danny. If that makes sense.
Yes.
But it wasn't clear.
Well, that also like that brings me to the idea of like the merge and back to like Sharif gets the details from Danny about Kristen's idol and things like that. Did you hear any of that? And was it on your mind at all? You know, like Kristen having the idol and Julia having the idol?
Yeah, I was idol paranoid the entire game. I think probably because of what happened to me early in the game, and I was like, if I got targeted for having an idol, everybody needs to get targeted.
Yeah.
But I think I find out about Kristen's idol at the same or very similar moment that Sharif does. I think I was there. I think I was in that scene. Sometimes I think I'm there and people just don't see me. But but maybe I wasn't. I don't know. But
stealthy.
yeah, I mean that's my whole MO. Like I'm just like I have my little hood on with my shoulders out. I don't know why I did that. Like I think I was protecting my hair or something.
Yeah, protecting
like,
your hair, putting
like,
your ears closer to
like
the conversation.
And I only wore the hood, and then it was like a cape, and I was just like floating around listening. But yeah, I think like even Chris or in my confessionals, like whenever Chris asked me a question at Tribal, I'm just like, who has idols? Like, if you have it, just play it right out. Because you're going to get voted out if you don't. So it definitely affected me knowing that they had idols. And every time like I was strategizing, I was like, we have to vote for Julia or Kristen. Like, they're dangerous.
Oh my god.
It's crazy in retrospect. I think about this a lot. Like, how many Survivor seasons do like only women find idols? You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
Yeah.
No, it's definitely like one of those like situations where it's like you're threatened by people that you see yourself in, maybe because I found 2 idols in this season, and I'm just going after everybody else who's finding idols. But I found them. It's just very hypocritical. But
yeah,
you're like, I understand the power. That's why you have to go.
Yeah. Only I can have it. No. No, I think also it's just a way to target somebody and like get maybe your name out of other people's mouth. I feel the same way in LRGs about like people saying like, oh, this person's a big physical threat, or we need to keep this person because they're really strong. Like obviously it's mostly about like usually about guys, or like in the earlier like pre-merge, it's like we need to keep our tribe strong. you know, it's not like we're really like out there playing real Survivor with Jeff Probst. Like these things don't matter as much. They do matter. I mean, based on like who we see and who ends up winning individual immunities towards the end of the game, like it's still the big guys that win the majority of them. But for the most part, like, you know, you can get by without having like big, strong people. But I think it's just something to say. Like when you're strategizing in these types of games, it's like if you don't have a legitimate reason to like keep this like big strong player that's in your alliance or like protect them, it's just like an argument to be made. Like, yeah, but we need to keep this tribe strong. Same thing with the idols. Like, you know, you want to target somebody, it's an easy thing to say, like, that person has an idol, they're dangerous, like anything can be used against you.
Yes. Yes. The momentum of information. As soon as you know, you're like, they gotta go. Oh!
Wait, why am I bad?
Why am I bad, Edsel? Why am I bad?
Yeah, why am I
Explain
bad,
yourself.
Edsel?
Explain yourself.
Oh, because maybe, is it because he told me to play my idol?
Maybe.
Well, you know what? Yeah,
We'll
let's
never
go all the way
know.
back to round one. You
I'll always
Round
be
one.
angry.
Okay.
Sharif also tells me to play it.
Yeah,
I don't, you
right.
know, I'm not the only one that was being stupid.
Mhm.
Right?
Mhm.
We can blame two men. We can blame.
Yeah,
two
we can blame men.
I
I
was being stupid, but I'm not the only one.
I want to go to a final tribal council question that I really enjoyed. You know, Jeremy walking up there, and he kind of represents this like super fan that got to have his day in the sun, right? What was one of your favorite moments of this game? Like, if you were sitting in that spot, but also just objectively, what was one of your like favorite, like funniest moments in this game?
Unfortunately, it's when we all ran away from Julia.
Yeah. Oh, I remember.
Sorry.
No. It's funny. I think
it's mean. It's horrible. Like I'm pretty sure that there were probably multiple occasions in my childhood where people were running away from me, and it's not a good feeling. But I think it was so funny.
Yo,
she didn't deserve, but it was just funny because, like, I think she's amazing. Like, I know that she's someone that laughs about it. But just like the visual of it, I mean, like, has that ever happened on Real Survivor? Because we had like one more second to finish up our strategy, and like we just started running, and like I just was just like, oh my god, and it was just so funny. I don't know. I like that moment a lot. I also like Julia's final tribal council question, which I actually stole it for my British Columbia season. Spoiler alert, I'm on the jury. But
it just started airing, Brienne.
Cut it.
I'm not cutting it.
I mean, I just wanted to call it out because I don't know if it's going to be aired that I stole her question, and she deserves the credit for it because it's a great question. Sorry, I'm sorry. Whatever. Like, arrest me.
No,
I don't know how many views this will get. So, was that really bad? Should I feel terrible about that?
No,
I don't think. I don't think anyone's gonna be rioting on the message boards anytime soon.
It doesn't spoil anything.
Right.
It's a very tiny piece.
I think to your answer, being the person behind the camera, like recording this like really intense conversation, and then like you doing eyes like, yo, we gotta go, and then like panning to them, like running towards, and then panning back and seeing y'all run away. It was a beautiful fucking shot. Like chef's kiss behind that camera, loving every moment of it. It was.
There were some seriously pretty shots in season 5. Like, there was that one, I think it was during the OTEP challenge, where like you can like see the droplets of rain, like, and you know, it's like very high definition, and like, I don't know, it was just beautiful. Like, it's so
we gotta give a shout out to my boyfriend for letting me borrow that camera. I was so scared that I was gonna get it wet, and I was like, in hyper asshole mode because I was like, I need people to carry an umbrella over me because I do not want to pay for a new camera. Like, let's go. Like, that's what it really became, like diva time. So I was like, if this gets wet, I'm gonna freak out on people. But it really looked. The rain gives it this quality of like you guys feel like you're really fighting for something. I don't know. It's hard to describe.
Yeah.
Like the wobbly stack in the rain too.
Yes.
And the cameras are so good that they also don't capture how bad the rain was, in my opinion.
No.
Like, it looks like it's just drizzling.
It definitely did not drizzle.
And it was, we were in a hurricane. Like, that's just the truth. I don't know. The cameras are lying. I was wearing sneakers the whole time, and when I got home, the bottom of my feet were like pruned, like more than they ever have been in my whole life, to the point where they like cracked and I was like bleeding, like after wearing sneakers outside in the rain for 3 days. Like, it was so bad.
Wow.
Stan has a story. I'm sure he'll like tell us about it later. But somebody in Surviving Real Foot got pulled for like trench foot, basically, because of something similar where they like had hurt their foot.
Had that. It was like painful to walk for like 2 days. Like, I think I had that. I should have been medevaced.
Yeah, is that the season Surviving New York season 7? Show me your feet. Like, what are we?
Survivor New York season 7 podiatry.
It's not Survivor New York if there's no like crazy rain.
I mean, I feel like it has been offset where, 4 has been really hot, 5 has been really rainy, 6 is really hot. I think 7 might get some rain. I'm just saying.
6 had some rain. Don't forget.
Oh yeah, Jesus,
yes,
that
wow.
was the worst.
Okay, wow.
Fuck.
How soon we forget, right? How soon we forget.
6 had
another trauma-inducing moment.
It wasn't like season 5's. That was rough.
I feel like it was almost worse because we weren't prepared for it, because it was just like
prepared.
downpour.
Get the rain off the top.
Brianne, I want to talk about one other moment that I think is so funny in this season with you, which is when you find a challenge advantage accidentally, and then you play it, and then you just put one block in 30 seconds on it. Everyone catches up to you immediately.
Yeah.
I love it so much.
I'm really good at getting advantages and finding idols, but really bad at using them correctly. So first of all, the advantage was I got an extra 30 seconds, but I use it so terribly. Like, in my brain, I'm like, I've watched this on the show. Like, you're supposed to go really slowly because everybody else is going to go fast and it looks like they're doing good, but then they drop. But really what you're supposed to do is like go fast on like the first 2 and then slow it down. But I was just like moving at like a snail's pace, and then it was just like, boom, you're out. So yeah, I'm not the sharpest on that challenge. But you know what? Sharif spelled it backwards. So once again, like, I'm stupid. I get it. But like, I'm not the only one.
Sharif spelling it upside down is so fucking funny because like at a certain point you know that he knows, but he just doesn't want to restart. So he's like, he's not giving up. But also that you're like, bitch, you cannot think that we would accept this for 1 second. Come on now.
I think there's a lot of my like favorite moments that I have like watching it. Like, maybe not like playing during, but like watching it back, like just some of the things. Like, Ari is so funny. Like, I didn't really get to play with him very much, but like, he's so fun.
He's like
his confessionals, his intro. Like, I think I would have been, if I was just like, I am an Ari fan, but like, I would have probably been rooting for him if I was just like watching and not playing. Andy also like seemed like there's so many great characters in this season that I just love to watch. And then like all of the hiccups. I love Kayla. But that moment with Kayla and Sharif, that's just like so iconic. Like
and we were all in a room together. That's what killed me, is I had watched a cut of the episode and then it was like, oh, we all get to watch, and I was like, we're all just gonna watch a train wreck in real life right now with everybody. It's fantastic. I also really loved oh my gosh. Ari Ferrari feels like a Catskills comedian. Like he's just so like fast and jokey all the
Yes,
time. But I can't
he's so
recommend enough
quick.
that people go watch Survivor Philadelphia season 2 if you want more Ari Ferrari
Mm-hmm.
because he's so funny in Survivor Philly 2. It's
What
like
was
out of
he?
control.
I forget what it was, but I listened to his exit interview and I was like dying laughing. Like I was like in my house just like screaming laughing about like something he said about like PBS like cleaning up a park of like do you remember what it was? It was like he was talking about like starting like a survivor game like on like PBS or something where like you bring kids to like and like you have but it was like a game where like you clean up like drug but I forget even what it was. But I was just like that. Do you remember Naomi? Do you remember?
Yes,
I
let's
don't
do.
remember. Unfortunately, there have been a
Ari.
lot of interviews between then and now, so it's tough
His
to
exit
recall
interview is
for
so
sure.
funny, and he was just like coming up with all these crazy ideas for Survivor games.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
he's gonna get there.
yeah,
Oh yeah.
I
He
know. I
was
love it.
now I need
he
to find out
was
what it was, but I'll do
he
it
truly
later.
was so funny. Like I remember looking at Danny and I think McKenna talking in 1 second, and then all I hear is swish, 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 and I look over and Ari's in the water trying to find an idol. I'm like, what are you doing over there?
Oh
So
yeah,
if anybody was gonna get trench foot, it was probably gonna be Ari.
Thank
yeah.
God he got voted out early, so he couldn't
Yeah.
get sick.
He
Yeah,
just
Yeah.
has a very unique brain,
Yes. Very,
which is
very
great
unique.
for
I
Survivor.
love him. Brienne, do you have any other fun memories or favorite moments from this season as a whole? Just I feel like this was a really fun experience for you. Even through its ups and downs. Do you have anything else you're reflecting on in this time, or even like post game? I don't know. You guys are all chaotic. Um, I'm wondering if anything else
There's
is
been
occurring
high
to you.
highs and low lows. Uh, fun post game experiences. I don't know, like what else? I mean,
Well, do you remember that time that we all so like there's a big sort of meetup in New York City. I think it was right after the game, and then a hurricane happened, Davy, and I think we were doing a podcast, so you and I left. This is
Yeah.
I think it's
Yes.
your exit interview.
Yes. It was mine. It was mine.
Yes, and we all got dinner and hung out, and then all of a sudden it was like, okay, well we should leave, and then there was like a thunderstorm. You guys were all hanging out, Brienne, and then like Jordan and Sharif had to spend a night in a hotel room together or something crazy.
Yeah,
yeah,
it
it
was
was
it was at Festival. That place had really great cocktails.
yes. I've been trying to remember the name of that place. Yeah.
Festival.
Um, that was crazy. I think that was like the one of the first times we had hung out since the game, and then it was
Yeah.
just like, here's another hurricane, and we had already been like used to like hanging out with each other in a hurricane.
Desensitized.
But yeah, we got trapped. I think I had we were, and then we all went to like Danny's to play a game, and like we were literally trapped there. Like it's crazy. They shut down the MTA. I remember, like you
Oh
couldn't get
yeah.
on a train. It was
That
wild.
was a bananas day
That
for
those
sure.
rainstorms that year were insane.
Wild.
Like there was like footage of rain coming up to the rooftop like of the subway system, like or like in the stairs that go down into it. Like you couldn't. It was like that scene in the Titanic where like you couldn't go down the stairs. That's what it looked like. It's crazy.
Yeah, it was a lot.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
I
Davey.
w- no, I would just be remiss without naming Mark, who was rooting so hard for you. He was like,
I
that's
know.
that's why Brand's my number one pick. He like would back you so hard, and I think that there was a lot of merit to it because you were such a fun character who was in the know, who fought really hard and was scrappy, and you truly did not give up. It was a great sight to see.
Yeah, I think that's why that was. First of all, thank you, Mark. It's very nice to be like rooted for, to have fans. um,
The big
She's
fans,
famous.
yeah.
which, like you know, like you said, it's what did you say that I was messy? Scrappy?
Scrappy.
Yeah, that's a good
Messy.
word. But yeah, I think that's like why my final tribal council question like was what it was in the end, because I ask about mistakes and like, you know, it's about how you climb out of your mistakes and how you react to things more than it is just like not making them at all. And I think that's what makes like a really good survivor player is someone who can like be at the bottom and figure out a way to literally survive out of it. Like you have to be like pretty much almost dying in order to survive a situation. You know, if you're just like thriving, you're not playing survivor. So that's kind of I really feel like I got like a really good full experience out there. You know, highs and lows,
Highs and lows, peaks and valleys.
peaks and valleys.
Yeah,
and
what are your
a lot of really
rose? What is your
friends,
thorn? Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
no real enemies, no hate for the most part.
No lifelong enemies, just lifelong friends.
Yeah, just lifelong friends. That's all I
Well,
ask for.
Briette, I just want to ask you, just in general about Survivor, like, what is it that you appreciate about the game and can appreciate even more now that you've come out of playing it a couple times and having all these kind of crazy experiences?
Oh my god, I feel like just like so much. Like I can't even I feel like I could talk about it forever, just like the things and the nuanced ways that this game can like really teach you about life for good and for bad. Like it can kind of teach you lessons on like how to manipulate people to get your way, which is kind of useful, but you know, you don't want to like these things to turn you into a bad person. But like I think that for someone who maybe struggles with like confidence and um knowing like how to trust your gut, I think it really teaches you that lesson because when you play your first one, you kind of go and you're like, I'm not going to trust anybody. Like people who are trustworthy, who want to work with you, are talking to you, and you're like, no, like everybody's lying. And like if you do it and like kind of figure out the types of people that you like to work with and the difference between when someone's lying to you or like when someone's trying to like use you to get their way or when someone's genuinely like wanting to work with you. I really feel like this like playing this has maybe like fine-tuned my eye to these things in like nuanced ways. And it's every time I play, I feel like I don't necessarily play like better in terms of like winning, losing, but I think I play better in terms of finding like my voice and my confidence and not it's easy to be too scared that you're going to come off too loud or too strategic, so you like hold back. For me, I always like was scared of that, so I just didn't say anything at all, and then I just come off like a super quiet person. So it's just kind of like you learn how you're perceived. Like perception is reality. You learn how messed up your perception actually is when you watch it back, and like there's just it's so enlightening. It's so like watching yourself on screen, you're like, do I really talk like that? You know, it's just very like I think it's very helpful overall like experience to learn about yourself and how you deal with other people, what you need to work on. Like it's really, really powerful stuff.
Definitely. I love Survivor. I love the power of Survivor, but like, you know, like sometimes it feels like the gospel, right? Where you're like, I love the power of Survivor, thank you.
Thank you.
Amen, Jeff Probst. No, I really appreciate you coming and participating, Brienne. And also, I don't think people totally know this, but the fact that you would be so kind as to introduce your sister to us and have her participate on season 6 is really freaking cool. And I love that that gets to be like it because I know like your mom is really excited about the season and things like that. Like it's very cute. I love that everyone in your family is so into it.
Oh yeah, we're a Survivor family, and then I kind of went off the deep end with all this LRG stuff, and my sister was like, "I want to play." Like she's ready, she wanted to do it, and I was like, "Hell yeah!" Now she's got like her own friends from her season, and it's just you know, it's I want everybody that I've ever known to do this. Like I think this should be like part of everybody's life because it's so like it's such a great learning experience. Um, it's a good learning experience to learn how to like not be such a sore loser, not take things so like not take things so like I don't want to say take things personally. It's okay to take it personally a little bit if you're voted out, I think. But I think, to not put so much weight on like, if you make a mistake, if you perceived something wrong, it doesn't mean you're stupid. It doesn't mean that everyone's out to get you. It's just like there's just so many good lessons to be learned, I think.
Yeah, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody has those days.
It can be really humbling, really rewarding.
Yeah.
It's literally just like it's like practicing life and like and it's just so crazy. You're like on a whole nother planet. It's so weird coming back from it. Like the next day you're just like back to work and you're just like, I literally just met like 30 people.
Yeah, my life literally just changed this past weekend. Excuse me, I need 15 minutes.
Like, it's crazy. It's a wild ride. Yeah.
It's that classic story of Louis saying that he cried after he got back from season 3 at work because he was just so overwhelmed. And I think what Survivor does. I think Survivor actually, unless you're like a Carolyn, I think Survivor ruins your main character syndrome sometimes because you realize that maybe you weren't important to the winner's game, or maybe you get voted out because people don't like you. And so I remember when I got voted out once, it was like such a shock of like, I thought I was somebody that people like to talk to, and they were all like, "No, go away." And so it really shakes you up. But the best people rebound from those shakeups and use it to become a new version of themselves. We're also like a lot of people are in their 20s or 30s, and you're taking a lot of time to grow and get to know yourself as a person, and it really helps, I think, in a lot of ways, like helps you become more than a blob of Play-Doh.
Yeah. I think like there's no shame in getting blindsided, and it's always like I wasn't really blindsided in this season, but I've been blindsided, and I think it's like the worst thing you could do is like not come back from that and just be like laughing and being like respectful of the people that did it. I don't know. It's just like a really good lesson, like in life. I don't know. Yeah. I think, or like even like the revisionist history sometimes, I think it could be so embarrassing when people are like, I did that on purpose because da 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 da, and like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's just like allow it to like humble you. It's like a rewarding no matter what happens.
And then when you do essentially get the itch to play again, you'll have this newfound insight that has allowed you to start a good foundation with whatever game or whatever choices you make next. So cheers to the revisionist history that is paired with insight.
Which, like, I think we're all guilty of it to a certain level, because I don't remember a lot. So sometimes I'm just like, oh yeah, like I definitely was thinking about like that so strategically at the time. But like probably, there's probably some layers to that not being the case, let's say, in certain moments. But I just try to keep it honest as much as possible.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
What?
I know what Jordan is saying, but I don't know if anybody else is saying.
He's quoting Jake and Amir.
Yeah, I know. And I was like, why are you doing this right now?
Jordan and I are big Jake and Amir fans, so I think.
Wait, we're gonna end this call and we're gonna talk about it right now. All right. Okay. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Don't forget that we have a couple more coming up. Sharif, Danny, Stan, Veronica in the queue. Make sure if you're in the New York City area, come join us at St. Pat's Bar to watch Survivor every week. It's so much fun. Love it. Thanks, Jordy. And also subscribe to Silent Podcasts. Join the Silent Podcast family. Leave us a 5-star review. Tell us that we're all gorgeous and you love us. Leave a comment on like YouTube or Facebook or somewhere and tell us how awesome we are. And I think in particular, make sure to subscribe to Survivor New York on YouTube. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter. No, we're not. That's just me, at Naomi Calhoun. And you'll get the updates about Survivor New York from me there. And Instagram in particular. And most importantly, we're casting season 7.
Do it.
SNY7 app come play, come join us. I worked really hard on a graphic that I haven't been posting much, so I should probably post it more. But it's been really fun to see applications so far. Take your time, come apply. And also, if you're ever bored, I am on the Survivor subreddit Discord all the time talking about not only Survivor New York season 5, where other people are lovely and talking about it, but also things like Survivor Michigan, Survivor Maryland. So, if you're feeling like you're a lonely little Survivor fan, come join us. We'll be there for you. And Davey, I just want to say a quick thank you for recapping the whole season because you did a great job. It was a lot of
Thank
fun
you.
and a lot of work. So thank you for doing all of that for us at our Silent Podcast family.
This was so
You're
fun. Thank you guys. Also, if anybody wants to watch more Brienne and play Survivor, I'm in a season now. British Columbia.
That you spoiled.
9, spoiler alert.
Survivor BC, Ad Astra, love Survivor BC, close friend of Chris, and I can't wait to watch that season. You guys really go through it. That's like if you want to watch Survivor surviving, that's like
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
there's your cup of tea. Okay, thank you everybody for watching. Thank you, Brienne. Team Davey as always. Good night,
Thank you,
everyone.
that's it.